Chloe, I heard the most heartbreaking story this time. It's a mystery about a family who moved into a traditional Korean house, a Hanok, in the city of Daejeon, South Korea, back in 1982. After you hear this, you might think twice before touching the wall of an old house. The story is about Hee-kyung's family. Just the three of them, her husband, and their young daughter, Eun-jung, moved into a new house. It was an old Hanok, but it had a nice yard and a certain charm. Hee-kyung was so excited, saying only good things are going to happen to us now. From the very first day, the neighbors were incredibly welcoming, bringing them rice cakes. "Let's be good neighbors," they'd say. It was a really warm, friendly neighborhood. But there was one strange thing. From the day they moved in, their daughter Eun-jung started spending more and more time at her friend's house, often not coming home until late. No one knew it at the time, but that was the beginning of everything. A few days later, Eun-jung ran home, pale as a ghost. She grabbed her mom's hand, crying that someone had drawn a scary picture on their wall. Hee-kyung rushed outside, but Chloe, it wasn't a picture. It was a dark, watery stain seeping through the wall, making it damp. It looked exactly like the silhouette of a person standing there. It was so strange. No pipes had burst, and no one had thrown water on it. How could water just appear on a wall for no reason? Hee-kyung just figured it was because the house was old and let it go. But Chloe, that was just the beginning. The really strange things started happening in the dead of night while everyone was asleep. One night, Hee-kyung woke up to find the main gate wide open. Her husband was fast asleep next to her. She was so spooked. The next morning, she asked him, "Did you forget to lock the gate last night?" But he swore he'd been asleep since the moment he came in. So who opened it? A ghost? From that night on, Hee-kyung became obsessed with locking up, even barring the heavy wooden gate. But it was no use. No matter how securely she locked it, the next morning, the gate would be wide open again. Convinced this wasn't the work of a person, Hee-kyung and her husband decided to try something unusual. They spread a thin layer of flour all over the ground in front of the gate. If someone came in, they'd have to leave footprints. That night, her husband got up to go to the bathroom and stepped into the yard, and he froze. There was no one there, absolutely no one. But in the white flour, footprints were appearing one by one. Step, step, as if an invisible man was walking right through the gate and into the house. After that, the horror started coming for Hee-kyung herself. She'd be sleeping but feel like someone was standing over her, watching her. One night she cracked her eyes open just a little and saw an old man standing stiffly in the middle of the room, staring down at her. She was too terrified to scream, and then the old man just faded into the wall. That was the last straw. Hee-kyung went to see a woman who ran a neighborhood shop, someone who had lived there the longest. She asked if she knew anything about the house's history. The shopkeeper let out a deep sigh and began to tell her the heartbreaking story of the previous owner. The house originally belonged to an old couple with 2 sons. The husband was the second son of a prestigious family line, but because his older brother, the heir, couldn't have children, they had to give up their firstborn son for adoption to carry on the family name. So the couple poured all their love into their remaining second son. But after a bad illness when he was 8, he was left with a permanent limp. You know how parents are. They worried so much that their son might feel insecure because of his leg, so they doted on him, maybe a little too much. But perhaps that love suffocated him. He grew distant, resentful. Then one day, while his parents were out, he took all the money and jewelry in the house and ran away. Maybe it was the shock. Not long after, the grandmother passed away, her heart broken from losing both her sons, one to tradition, one to resentment. Eventually, the old man was left all alone in that big house. And that's when it started. The old man, he was so afraid that if his runaway son ever came back and found the gate locked, he'd think his father wasn't waiting for him. So he never locked it, not even at night. Rain or shine, for decades, he waited for his son. Nobody in the neighborhood ever saw that gate closed. And the older son, the one he gave up, he never visited, probably still bitter about being sent away. He wouldn't even show up for the holidays. Still, the old man would lie to his neighbors, saying, "Oh, my son came by last night. He was so busy, had to leave early." He defended his son to the very end. Then one day, after decades of silence, that older son and his wife showed up. And the first thing they said was, "Father, this house will be mine when you're gone anyway. Why don't you just sign it over to me now?" They told him to give up on the younger son, that he was probably dead. The old man couldn't say a word. He just signed the house over. And his son rented it out to get the deposit money and then emigrated to America. That was the last the old man ever saw of his son. Not long after, on a stormy summer night, the old man passed away, all alone in that house. At his funeral, the older son just made one phone call from America. The younger son never appeared. The very night Hee-kyung heard this story, she came home and her daughter Eun-jung suddenly screamed, "Mom, the old man is there again!" Hee-kyung turned, and there he was, the ghostly grandfather, standing in the middle of the room, looking at her. But Chloe, this time was different. Hee-kyung wasn't scared anymore. Her heart just ached for him. Without thinking, she spoke to the spirit. "Grandfather, it's okay to lock the gate now. Your son, he's not coming back." And she said it was like he gave a faint smile and then just faded away. After that night, the gate never opened on its own again. The water stain on the wall dried up, and the old man was never seen again. That silhouette on the wall, maybe it was the image of the old man standing in front of his gate, drenched in rain, waiting for a son who would never return. And those footprints, what were they? Let me know what you think in the comments.